Welcome to another episode of Wild and Well. Today I'm talking to Dr. Kailey Buller all about navigating life with a newborn and making parenting a little bit less daunting. Dr. Kailey is a rural physician, she's a mother of two, and she is the author of Surviving Tiny Humans: The Messy Truth About Parenthood and Your Guide to Your Baby's First Year. So welcome, Dr. Kailey. Thank you so much for coming on the show. But before we get into all of that, can you tell us one thing that you did today to take care of yourself?
Okay. Well, my son, my 5-year-old, actually is homesick from school today. So he and my daughter were both sitting on the couch this morning, and we decided that we were going to make French toast, which happens to be my favorite breakfast, not theirs. So that was something that was really nice for me and for them. So we all had a sort of quiet, nice, home cooked breakfast without rushing out the door, which I thought was a really good way to start the day.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to start the day. My 6-year-old actually is home today as well, so I feel you on that one.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Absolutely. So my background is in family medicine. So I was trained as a family doctor. But doing rural family medicine means that really you can do it all. So our hospital here in Simcoe, almost every department has family physicians working in that department. So I originally started doing everything. I did hospitalist, I did labor and delivery, I did surgical assist, I did emerge, and I did family. Um, as I got a little bit further into my practice, and certainly after I moved here from Calgary, um, I started to whittle it down into the things that I was really passionate about. And it turns out that those two things were emergency medicine and labor and delivery. So I do those two exclusively now. I don't have a family practice anymore, but it's honestly such a wonderful balance, especially having young kids. I was able to be home with them a lot of the time doing shift work and on-call work. And I get the excitement of emergency medicine and delivering babies, but also I feel like labor and delivery is really the only place in medicine where patients actually want to be there. So it's a really nice, positive place to be.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but you're so right. For other things, you're going in because there's a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
amazing. So how did you get into this space of like working with parents in I guess that the first year of parenthood, and even writing a book and having courses specifically on this?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting shift for me, having been someone who does routine care of infants in childhood and common childhood illnesses, and then critical care, and I deliver babies. I mean, I was a highly trained medical professional in babies. And when I had my first baby, I knew nothing, like nothing. And it's incredible. It was incredible to me, to find and discover all of these little things that no one tells you, no one teaches you. And I mean, if my child had been sick or choking, I would have been all over that. That I could have managed, but it was all of the day to day stuff that I just didn't know. And I remember thinking, I'm the person who's supposed to know this. I'm the person who's supposed to be counseling patients on this. And if I don't know it, they don't stand a chance. Like how did they learn this? How do they know this? So originally, I just wanted to start group counseling. That's where this started. I wanted to bring new parents in, run some sessions with them, and cover all of these important topics. And so I started writing down the things that I wanted to counsel patients on, and I just kept writing. And eventually, it turned into this 12-chapter book. And I thought, I have enough here. I should be doing this more broadly. So I turned that into a book, and I turned the counseling into classes, and here we are.
Yeah, it's so needed, isn't it? And I think my experience is similar. I mean, it's different. I wasn't a medical doctor, but I had worked with parents. I had like run courses on parenting. I've worked with kids. I thought, and my husband's a GP, like, and he has delivered babies and things. And I just thought, oh, well, we have this. And like, we did not have this. And there was so much
Right.
that we didn't know.
Yes. And even I remember when I was just recently editing my online classes, and my husband was walking around in the background, and he said, I don't remember any of this. Like the stuff that I'm now including in my classes, he's completely forgotten all those details that you had to learn through trial and error or Googling at 3 a.m. And that's why no one tells you about it, because it's gone. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember asking my mom early on about something specific, and she said, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just at where my kids are at, and you are an adult. That's where I'm at. Like, I forget the details of having a newborn or what happens at 6 months or 9 months or 12 months. And it is absolutely true. I had to go through that myself to learn that, but you do
mhm,
forget those details. So it's so good that you are writing those down and
yeah.
providing that framework, because we all go through that phase of
Mhm.
having no idea what we're doing.
Absolutely. And you can't be expected to. I mean, there is no classes. There are no programs that teach people this. So here we are.
So, what are some of the main things that you have in your program and in your book that parents need to know about?
Well, I mean, the whole book is basically practical day-to-day information. So none of this is specialized, except I do have a chapter on medical conditions. But this is all stuff that most parents are going to figure out eventually, but it takes away them having to figure it out, which is nice. So we talk about breastfeeding, as well as bottle feeding, express breast milk, as well as formula feeding, because a lot of the time we spend so much time counseling on breastfeeding and supporting breastfeeding that we don't even talk about formula. So if someone needs to supplement with formula, they don't know the basics, right? I talk about mental health. I talk about postpartum recovery. How much bleeding is normal? What can you expect? Is having clots normal, not normal? When should you be worried? When should you go to the doctor? All of these things. And then there's sleep, colic, safety, starting solids, normal development, and developmentally appropriate activities. What can you do with this tiny human who lays around all day? Like what do you do with that person? Can you have the TV on, or are you going to melt their brain? Right? All of these things that moms worry about and have to then find answers to, and maybe the place that they're looking, the source that they're finding, isn't actually accurate. So I tried to bundle all of it in one hopefully reliable source that is, evidence-based. And a lot of my book has hundreds of tips from other Dr. Moms who said, this is how you make this easier. This is a great idea for this. So it's just full, jam-packed with tips and hacks and time and sanity savers.
Amazing. So, if we can look at some of those, like for example, you mentioned sleep.
Mhm.
There are so many opinions on infant sleep. What is your point of view, and what is it that you recommend in the book, and what can we expect from our babies?
Well, oh, yes. It's a bit of a loaded question. It's a very difficult topic, and it is so controversial. And I think it's controversial because it's so important. I mean, it's universally true that parents want their babies to sleep, right? The real debate becomes on the application of how. How do we get our babies to sleep? And there really isn't a right or wrong answer. I know some people feel really against sleep training, but I also wonder if the definition that they're using of sleep training is extinction, where you leave your baby to cry and you don't go and comfort them or support them, right? Whereas sleep training really should be called something different. It's just teaching. It's just letting your child learn how to sleep independently. And there's 100 ways to do that. So even before a child knows how to self-soothe, before 4 months, if you do something like the pick up, put down method, where you go to your crying child, pick them up, soothe them, put them back down, and give them another opportunity to fall asleep, that's still sleep training. But you are responding to your child. You are not abandoning them. You are meeting their needs, right? So I think if we shift the definition of sleep training to helping your child learn independent sleep, that will have to happen eventually. Eventually, your child will be sleeping on their own. And that might be when they're 7 months, that might be when they're 7 years. I still know some really wonderful families who bed share, and the whole family sleeps in the king size bed, all four of them. And that's wonderful if that works for your family. So there really isn't a wrong way, but eventually they'll need to sleep independently. And there's 100 different ways to do that. So I talk about some of those ways, and I talk about what information you might need to make a decision that works for your family. So I don't say you should do this or you can do that. I say, here's what baby's going through neurologically, developmentally. Here's what they're capable of. Here are some ideas.
I think that's a good way to do it because there really isn't a right or wrong with it. There's
Yeah.
so much variation. And I'm on that side where I have a 6 and 8-year-old as of recording this, and they still stay in our room, in our bed. So we just have two
There
huge
you
beds
go.
put together, and they sleep in there. So it's yeah, I'm no expert on sleep training. At some point, we'll have to help them sleep a bit more independently, but there is such a range of what we
Absolutely.
all need.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of babies who will be naturally great sleepers, and there are some who won't. So my son, my 5-year-old, he didn't sleep. And when I say he didn't sleep and I couldn't put him down, I don't mean like, oh, he was colicky and it was hard, but I couldn't put him down. We had to be up and walking and bouncing 24/7. He was so colicky. So I would stay up till 4, sometimes 5 in the morning. My husband would go to bed at 9. He would get up at 4, take over. I would get some sleep. His mom would come over at 7 a.m. so I could sleep from 5 to 9. And then we would start again. Like it was insane. And so after 4 months of that, when we finally figured out the colic, he had absolutely no idea how to fall asleep on his own because he had never even remotely been close to fall asleep on his own, right? He was 100% parent supported. So that was a big learning curve for him. And so we did do sleep training with him because we had to. I mean, I was going to die. I couldn't, that was not sustainable for a family.
Yeah, well, it is important to take into account not just what does the baby need and what's best for the baby, but what is best for the whole family. And as mothers, like, if we are not in a healthy position and if we are getting no sleep,
Mhm.
that jeopardizes our children.
Absolutely. And our attachment to them and our ability to care for them. So everything is a balance. And that's why I do really believe strongly that there is no black and white. You have to get the information that you need, put those pieces together, and then come up with a plan that works for your baby and for you.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that coming from a doctor. Like, I hope people get that message that it is what works for your family. It's
Mhm.
not just there's a one prescribed way because we read something. It's
Right.
take the information in and make a judgment yourself.
Absolutely. Right. And so a lot of people will say, oh, studies show that if you do sleep training, their cortisol levels go up. Well, sleeping poorly, their cortisol levels go up. So it's, six of one, half dozen of the other. And yes, parents are very worried about attachment when it comes to parenting and sleep training specifically, but there is no change to attachment as long as you are still responsive and meeting their needs, right? That you have to find that balance.
Yeah. So you mentioned colic, that you experienced this firsthand with your son. Tell us about colic. This is something that so many parents struggle with. What do we do?
That's such a good question. Colic is so challenging, not because of what it is, because realistically, colic is just a definition, it's not a diagnosis. So, colic just means that your baby cries for 3 or more hours, 3 days or more per week for a duration of 3 weeks or longer. And then you compare that to what purple crying is or normal crying, and that could be upwards of 5 hours of crying a day, but it's not as many days or as long. So it really becomes a bit of a gray area. And if your baby is crying a little bit more than normal, it might be colic, yes, but what does that mean? And I find that once we say, oh, your baby has colic, we stop. We stop there and just sort of treat that as if it is a diagnosis, but it's not. It just means baby's crying. And we haven't really found the reason why. So most definitions, I guess, of colic would be that it's, the overstimulation of an underdeveloped nervous system or the underdeveloped GI system, and baby just needs time to mature. But there are other potential causes for that amount of crying. So one of the things that I always recommend is taking a look at what could be causing that fussiness in your baby. And if it's completely out of character, the first thing that you're going to want to check is, do they have a fever? Are they sick? Is there any clothing that's pinching? If they're crying inconsolably and this is super new and you're not accustomed to this, make sure they're okay. But beyond that, I mean, if it's all the time and they're just a fussy baby, what's going on? Are they overtired? Are they not getting enough sleep? Are they, I'll have to take a step back there. Um, so if you have a baby who's crying and it's inconsolable and it's new for them, you want to check and see, is this something that's different, something that's changed? Do they have a hair tourniquet? Do they have a fever? Do they have clothing that's pinching or tight or uncomfortable? But if it's all the time, there are other things that could be causing it. So do they have a cow's milk protein intolerance or allergy? Could it be that that's causing the fussiness? Do they have reflux? Are they just gassy? Or is it truly just an overstimulated nervous system or an underdeveloped GI system? And if you could figure out, oh, I think that this is actually reflux because it fits all these patterns, that's treatable. If it's colic, if it's just an overstimulated nervous system, then yeah, that's just going to take time.
What do you recommend we do? Because I imagine a lot of cases are more of a GI issue or the nervous system being overwhelmed or underdeveloped. What do we do about those things?
So the biggest thing is soothing, right? There is something called the 7 S's, and every S stands for a different technique. So swaddling, soother, stimulation, so removing them from an overstimulated environment, sensory, is there something that you can do that they enjoy that will soothe them, patting their bum, whatever that might be. And it's really just responding to your baby's needs and helping them to calm down. If it is, that underdeveloped GI system, there is a probiotic. The brand name that most people are familiar with is BioGaia, but it's Lactobacillus reuteri. That has been studied to help with colicky symptoms. But other than that, there's really not much. Like, it really is soothing and time.
Yeah, soothing really helps so many things, doesn't it?
It does. But the other thing that I like to emphasize for parents is that it is okay to put a baby that is crying in a safe place and take a break. So if you cannot get your baby to stop crying, you've checked that they don't have a fever, you've checked that they don't have an injury, and they just are crying nonstop and you need a breather, if you put them down, that's okay. Letting them cry for 5 minutes is not going to harm them. And sometimes you just need to reset.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So having a newborn changes so much for us as parents, and it really changes our relationship that we have with our partners. How do you suggest we navigate this big change of becoming parents and also trying to maintain a strong relationship?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a big change. For women in particular, you have this paradigm shift from being who you were pre-mom and now being mom. And so it's not really that you've become a different person, it's that you are simultaneously two different people, right? And sort of trying to reconcile that. That can be a lot of mental gymnastics over time, and trying to figure out how to balance being mom with still being you is difficult. And the only person who knows how to do that is you. And it's going to take time and trial and error. But when it comes to adult relationships, I mean, it certainly is going to impact things. Your priorities are different now. Absolutely. And it's not just, the psychology of that. There's like an evolutionary biological imperative that now you've had a child, your job is to keep that child safe above anything else. Where male partners, their job was survival of the species, right? They just wanted to spread the seed. They want to propagate, right? And that doesn't change. Once you've had a baby, that's still there for them, right? They don't really have that same instinct to protect their offspring. They do a little bit, but it's not the same. And so I find, especially when it comes to intimacy, there's a huge discourse between what a woman is feeling and what a man is feeling, because nothing's changed for them. Whereas now we're seeing our sexual organs as baby food, right? Our breasts are no longer part of our sex life. They are sustenance for our child. And it's really hard to be intimate with somebody when you're leaking breast milk, for example. So it really does become challenging. And there was a study that was done, or a survey that was done, and I think it was somewhere between 67 and 90% of couples had a decrease in relationship satisfaction. And it didn't start to improve until their youngest child was 3 years old. It's a long time. So I think step one is recognizing that this happens, and expecting it is going to be the first step, is that recognition. And then I'm sure it's not going to be a surprise to anybody that communication is going to be the key, right? Telling people what you need very clearly is important. Don't try to make them guess, and don't try to suffer through it, right? If you need someone to do something, if you aren't ready for visitors, if you don't want someone to come over and snuggle your baby, tell them, you know what, I'm just not up for visitors today. Or you can put a price tag on that. It's cuddles for casseroles. If you want to come over and snuggle my baby, you gotta feed me, right? So being able to set those boundaries is important. And of course, with your partner, the biggest thing, and this is hard because I can't really tell women this, I have to tell the men this, but the biggest thing is if one person is carrying the mental load, what's been done, what still needs to be done, do I need to wash the bottles, what's the priority, what chores need to be done, how is the baby, what's their status, and husband comes in and says, what can I do to help? It's not helpful because it still requires one person to be in charge of that mental list, and also then ensuring that he's doing the job correctly, and not because it's weaponized incompetence per se, but because maybe he just doesn't know what your standards are or what your expectations are. So that becomes quite tricky. So I generally tell the men who attend my classes, let them know, tell your wife, hey, I'm going to go throw in a load of laundry, and then I'm going to be in the kitchen prepping some dinner, so that we know where to find you, we know what's been done, and we don't have to ask you to do it, and we can also check it off our mental list, right? Whereas if you just disappear to go do something, we don't know what you're doing, we don't know where you are, we don't know when you're coming back, and that's not helpful.
Yeah, I think a lot of resentment can build when our partners do just go and do something, and they might be doing useful things, but we don't see that. So it's invisible
Mhm.
to us, and then they don't see what we're doing. So resentment can build on both sides, feeling like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm doing so much here. Why are they not helping? But they might be feeling the same way. So I think it's really great to tell each other and have those conversations and not just, yeah, like you say, ask each other, well, what can I do to help here? I even like to divide roles. I find that
Mhm.
so helpful. So it's not delegating, being like, oh, yeah, tonight, can you make dinner? It's just, we know every week you're on taking the garbage out. So I don't even have to ever think about it, for instance, that's just your job. I don't care like how it's done. You have to let go of some of that
Yes,
control and
absolutely.
just let them do it their way. And same, like it's reciprocal in that way. So yeah, I think that's so important. And how you brought up needs, that we need to be clear and not expect our partners or other people to mind read, but be
Mhm.
clear on what we want and need and ask for those things.
Absolutely. And I remember very, very specifically when people would come over to help with my first, and he was so colicky that when I finally put him down, I had to eat and shower and hydrate and clean bottles and all these things. So they would come over and they would snuggle my sleeping baby so that I could go do all those other chores. And I wanted to kill them. Like I wanted to murder these people because why can't I snuggle my baby? And you go wash a few damn bottles, you know? But I didn't want to say that. I thought it was sort of not really my place to ask someone to do that. But when you're in the throes of new motherhood and these people are coming over and offering help, you should assume that they are truly offering you help and you can ask for the things that you need. And if they say, oh, no, I'm not going to do that, that's weird, well, then they're not really there to help you. So then you can say, well, you know what, I'm not really up for visitors right now, and beat it.
Yeah. And most of the time, like 99% of the time, they are there to help, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they might just not know how, and they don't want to step on your toes, and they're sort of, being careful as well. So that's again where the communication piece comes in.
Yeah, I think there's assumptions that, oh, you're with the baby all day. Maybe you want a break so you can go do something yourself. But
Mhm.
a lot of cultures do have it built in that they have people come in and support the mother in all the ways outside of the bonding with the baby.
Mhm.
And I think it'd be so great if we had more of that in our Western culture as well. And so
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful that you're talking about this.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, if you are overstimulated and overtouched and you do need a break from baby, that's totally normal and fine too, right? But it's really about telling people what you need in that moment. And it might be different. And yes, people might think that you can't make up your mind, but that's okay. Your needs will change from minute to minute.
Mhm. Yeah, getting clear on your needs. That was probably one of the biggest things I learned becoming a
Mhm.
mother is knowing what I need and being able to tell myself that and then articulate that to others.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what are some of the unrealistic expectations that you frequently see among new moms? And how can we start to let go of these?
Yes, that's a very important question. There are many. There are many. I mean, The most obvious one is that sort of supermom expectation. And I think that is particularly harmful, where there's so much information, particularly on social media, that makes it seem like you can do it all right and you can do it all. And I just don't think that that is realistic. And it sort of brings me to my next unrealistic expectation is that when women have an idea in their mind, sleep training is bad and I'm not going to sleep train, or bed sharing is bad and I'm not going to bed share, holding on to the expectation that that is going to be universally true for them, that that will always be the case, is also unrealistic. So yes, most of the time, perhaps you practice safer sleep habits and you don't bed share. But if all of a sudden you're trying so hard to avoid the bed that you fall asleep in the recliner with your baby covered in blankets, that's less safe. So being able to pivot and adapt to the situation at hand instead of, holding on to those ideals or those expectations that are not really so black and white is incredibly important. And being able to say, you know what, I need to get some sleep. My baby needs to get some sleep. So I'm going to, as safely as I can, bring this baby into bed with me.
Yeah, that is so important because we can feel, not just with motherhood, but with everything, that if we have a stance on something, we have to stay with that and we have to reinforce it and dig our heels in and do whatever we can to maintain that. But we change. We get new
Absolutely.
information. We live through experience, right? If you have a
Mhm.
first child, you're going to parent your second one slightly different because of experience.
Absolutely.
So how do you help people to let go of that? Because it is hard when you are holding on so tightly.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it requires a lot from that person in that moment, and I think the best thing that I can do is provide the information. Right? Is to say this is the safest way. This is also a reasonable option. This is good. This is not so good. But I think the best example I can give is with soothers. And I use this example a lot in my classes because most people, and I'll ask you this, are you pro soother or against soother?
I would say against,
Against.
if I
Okay.
had to pick. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I was, before kids, I was soother neutral. Like I didn't even realize that you could be for or against soothers. I just thought they were a thing that babies used. Right. And I think most parents do. And I asked this question in my class, especially the parents who haven't yet had their babies. And they're like, what are you talking about? Right. And some people are for them and some people are against them. And then I say, well, what if I told you that soothers can increase the incidence of ear infections? They go, really? Well, then I'm against them. Okay. Well, what if I tell you that using soothers can reduce SIDS risk? Really? Huh. So it's really about finding that balance. There's pros and cons to everything that you choose, and it's not just about baby. And as we mentioned before, it's about the family as a whole and about your mental health too. So not every decision can be made in a vacuum, right? And so I think arming parents with as much information as I can so that they know and they have that ability to make an informed decision, that's going to help them be able to pick and choose when and where everything can fall into place.
Yeah, and that probably also helps the parents know that there's gray area, that, okay, well, it's better for this if I have a soother. Oh, it's like a bit more negative for this if I use it. And if I
Mhm.
like, and you can go on and on. So I think knowing that, you know that it's not just like they're good or they're bad,
Right.
but how is it for me in this situation?
And
Yeah.
so if your baby really, really, really needs a soother, like my son who was colicky, he was a high suck needs, needed to be soothed constantly baby. And after I had taken my prenatal classes, I thought that soothers were demons and that I should never use them because that was sort of the information that had been conveyed in that prenatal class to me. But he needed it and he slept better and he was more comfortable. So you know what? I'm using a soother because that's what we needed. So I think just being able to adapt and having as much information as you can to know what the decisions that you're making are probably not going to be harmful no matter what you choose. I mean, short of something dangerous or abusive, like you're realistically not going to harm your baby.
Yeah, we are coming to all these decisions from a place of like such deep love, right? We're just
Mhm.
trying to help our babies and help our families as much as we can. So, yeah.
Mhm.
So, how do you suggest that moms balance their own needs with those of their newborns, especially like you talk about this super mom belief that we can like do it all, and there's so much
Mhm.
self-sacrifice and selflessness being promoted. How can we actually balance what we need with all the demands of our children?
Yes. Oh boy. Good question. I think I'm going to start by saying that the advice that I typically hear in this realm, oh, take 10 minutes when you have it and go for a walk or go take a shower. And like that is, pardon my French, but that is such bullshit. Like when your baby is sleeping, you sneaking in a shower, that's not self care. That's like bare minimum, right? That's just you doing what you need to as a, basic functioning human being. So step one, I think the biggest thing is giving yourself permission to put yourself first. So saying it's okay that right now I'm not going to meet my baby's needs and I'm going to meet mine. And I think the easiest way to do that is to be able to delegate the baby's needs to someone else, someone that you trust, right? Because then you know that their needs are still being met, but it doesn't have to be you. So if you have someone who can do that for you, and even if they don't do as superb a job as you do, because let's be honest, no one probably will. I mean, you're their mom. No one's going to be able to fill your shoes, but they'll be able to meet those needs on their own terms. And then you can actually turn your brain off of mom mode. And I think that's what's really and truly restorative. Because if you go have a bubble bath, but you have the monitor on and you're listening sort of in the background and waiting for baby to wake up, that's not really recharging your batteries either. So I think really being able to shut your brain off, if that's available to you and having someone else available to meet baby's needs for you, that's what's going to let you take a break and get back to being you and meeting your own needs. And if you don't have that, this might be controversial, but honestly, maybe you go outside for 10 minutes and you don't take the baby monitor with you. If your baby's asleep and they're safe in their crib, you can take 10 minutes, right? Don't take the monitor so that you're not listening and waiting. And if they wake up in 3 minutes and they cry for 7 minutes while you're outside, that's not going to harm them. That's not going to kill them. They'll be okay. You needed that 10 minutes.
Yeah. I still find myself emptying the dishwasher as fast as I can because I never knew how long my kids would sleep for, and I was usually home by myself with them. So it isn't a break to whether you have a shower or
No,
you do some chores or whatever it is by yourself when you are just waiting and you're listening, thinking, oh, is that them? Are they waking up? Did I get what I wanted to get done?
right?
Like
There's this
it's
like
stressful.
constant baseline anxiety
Yes.
of monitor.
Yeah. It
Absolutely.
almost makes it worse.
Mm-hmm. It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. And having as much support as we can, it just makes things so, so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's so many big emotions that we have when we become moms, right? And we glorify the joy, and there is so much joy and there's so much love, and it changes you forever in the most amazing ways. But there is a lot of grief, there's a lot of resentment, there's fear, and there's so many other like not so fun emotions that come with motherhood too. Can you speak to this? Like, how do we normalize this more? Because
Yeah.
it is normal to experience the
Mm-hmm.
full gamut.
Oh my gosh, this is my biggest pet peeve. It just drives me absolute bonkers. We say things like, "You're glowing. Oh, congratulations! This is so exciting. Good for you. And isn't it so great that you're pregnant?" No, pregnancy is traumatizing. It is like there is absolutely no way for a woman to bring a baby into the world without trauma. Like by the actual definition of tearing of tissue or something, right? Like there's going to be some trauma. So, yes, pregnancy is beautiful, but it can be terrible at the same time. It can be both things. And I do think that we really need to normalize the negative aspects as well. So, when a woman finds out the gender of her baby and she's disappointed, or when a father finds out the gender of his baby and he's disappointed, that's normal. That's okay. You're grieving the loss of something you thought you were going to have. And later, you can allow yourself to be excited, but that doesn't mean that you're a bad parent, right? Um, and then, of course, once you do have the baby, you're going to be feeling all sorts of things. And again, when people say things like, oh, cherish every moment, it goes by so fast. You're allowed to hate some of the moments that you have as a parent. You are allowed to struggle, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's normal, but it's certainly very common. And especially when it comes to those early days when you've just been through something traumatizing and you're recovering, our expectations are absolutely absurd. I mean, especially for a C-section, for example, that's major abdominal surgery. That's not a small procedure. They're cutting through layers of skin, muscle into the uterus. Some people actually invert the uterus out of the body to stitch it back up and then put the uterus back in the body. Like, it's intense. And if you can imagine your family member had surgery, let's say that they were donating part of their liver to somebody else just out of the goodness of their heart. Great. So they take part of the liver grows back. So it's not really the end of the world. And they've got this wound and it's bleeding. And the doctor says, oh, yes, your wound is bleeding. That's normal. It's going to do that for about, 3 to 6 weeks. Just tell me if the bleeding's too much, or if you get dizzy. Like, that would be insane. If someone came into the hospital and was like, I'm bleeding. And we were like, you're fine. Right? And we wouldn't expect them to be up multiple times at night, not getting adequate rest, taking care of a newborn baby, cooking dinners, cleaning the house. That would be absolutely insane in any other situation, and yet we expect it of new mothers. So when I frame it that way, people go, oh, absolutely. Like, you're right. It's the same thing. It's two similar surgeries, but the expectations are completely different. And I don't really understand why. And I think that we need to start shifting our perspective to, we need time to heal, recover, grieve the loss of the life that we had, and grieve some of the things that we're never getting back, right? While also making space to be excited and find the joy in our new role as moms.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So how do we do that? Is it having these conversations?
I think so. I think we just need to talk to moms, get the information out there. And again, we need to normalize it, right? We've done such a good job of romanticizing childbirth and pregnancy that I think we've swung too far. And I think we need to talk about how beautiful it is, but also how real it is, right? How raw your emotions are going to be, and that women can and should expect all of them, and all of them are part of the experience of becoming a parent, and all of those feelings are okay.
Mhm. Yeah, there's an and there, right? It doesn't have to be I feel joy or I feel
Mhm.
grief. It's I can feel all of these things simultaneously or at different moments in time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So what are some other ways that we can support ourselves and our mental health when we are like in the throes of sleep deprivation and
Mhm.
newborn life and all that comes with that?
Yes, I actually do in my book have like a how to stay sane like list, because there are a few things. I mean, not all of them are good. Some of them are very small, but there are some things that you can be doing to help keep yourself from going totally bonkers in those early days. But sleep absolutely is one of the big ones, right? Sleep deprivation is real, and there's a lot of studies, and it's not surprising, but there's a lot of studies that show that the better rested you are, the more attachment, the better bonding, the better you're going to feel. So if sleep is something that you are struggling with, if you are up all night long like I was, you need to be able to have those conversations with your partner or your family or whoever you have supporting you, um, to maybe have one feed overnight be a bottle feed so that you can get a stretch of 4 or 5 hours if your baby's not already giving you that, right? Not every single feed has to be a breastfed session. So we have this, again, this black and white sensation that if I'm breastfeeding, I need to breastfeed and it has to be me and I have to be the one to get up and I have to go and I have to do all this. But do you? Would it be okay if maybe there was one bottle of express breast milk overnight? Or would it be okay if there was one night a week or one night every few days where every feed was done by your partner with a bottle? Like, would that not be okay? So, again, learning to accept that you can't do it all and that you can ask for help, and that asking for help is showing strength and resiliency and self awareness, right? And then, of course, there's all the little things like you can say no to visitors, and you should only plan things that you want to do. Don't feel obligated to go to events or to be getting out of the house because you feel like you should, right? You can do what you feel you need in that moment. And you can cancel your plans. That's another big thing too. If your baby had a really crappy nap and they're a disaster and you really don't want to go to this family picnic, maybe you say, I'm so sorry, but I just don't think that this is going to be good for me and for my baby today. We're just not having a good day. That's okay too, right? The other thing that I always talk about too is that you should have everything you need everywhere, right? So if you are bottle feeding, take a cooler with bottles into the nursery with a bottle warmer and have it all there so you don't have to be trucking downstairs in the middle of the night with a baby in one arm and you're trying to make a bottle with one hand and put it in the bottle warmer and you're, in a dark house and it's exhausting, right? Or have all of your breastfeeding stuff, your breastfeeding basket, a portable basket that you can carry around. Have diapers and wipes everywhere so that you don't have to walk all the way up the stairs every time your baby has a poop blowout, right? It's just those little things that can make your life a whole lot easier. And putting bath time on the counter, right? Get a little tub, put it on the counter so you don't have to bend and twist when you're recovering and you can just pull it out, do a quick bath and you're done. When you start feeding your baby solids, right? You don't have to worry about keeping them clean. Let them get head to toe covered in peanut butter. That's okay. You can give them a bath after, right? So letting go of some of those little things and some of those tips that other moms will give you to save time, save sanity, those all piece by piece will make a huge difference.
Yeah, those are really, really good tips. When you're talking about like getting peanut butter all over themselves, I just love summertime because you can just sit outside and eat, and then you don't have to worry about cleaning the floors.
Right.
Yeah, I
Okay.
had
Well,
my
and the other hack for that, if anyone is wondering, if you don't want to clean the floors, get one of those like kids' birthday plastic tablecloths and put it under the high chair. And then you just pick it up when you're done, brush it off. You don't have to clean the floor.
yeah, that's brilliant.
Right? Like don't waste time cleaning the floor. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, there's so many other things to
So
do.
many things. Yeah. So, and those are the ones that I really appreciate, right? Like having a bucket of water with a little bit of stain remover in your laundry room. So you don't have to do laundry. You can just throw that in the bucket and then you can do laundry when you have time. Right. So those little pieces. And of course, not everything has to get done. That's the other thing too, is it's okay for some days or a lot of days if you just do not have the mental fortitude to get the laundry done. That's fine. You don't have to do it that day. But the other piece is don't let your own expectations stand in the way of your accomplishments. So if you put the wash in the washing machine and then you put it through the dryer, you've done the laundry. Even though it's not folded and put away in exactly the right spots, you've done the laundry. That's done. You can fish things out of the dryer. It's clean, it's ready, right? So sometimes people will have these barriers like, I don't want to do the laundry because I can't imagine folding all those tiny socks and onesies. And I just, okay, throw it in the dryer. You're done. You're done.
Yeah, I still do that unintentionally.
Absolutely. Mostly because I forget about it, to be
Yeah,
honest. But
but it works. The kids just fish things out of there when it happens.
absolutely.
So how can people find out more about you and the programs that you offer? Is this you have them online and in person, is that correct?
I do. Yes. So I have my advanced copy of my book is here. I
Oh,
know, very exciting.
that's so
Uh,
exciting.
yeah, so I have that. I don't have an official launch date yet. I'm doing a soft launch at the end of August, and I'll do like an official book launch when I know exactly when it will be hitting the shelves. But I do have the book. It is available through my website, and it will be through every major retailer as well. So Amazon, Indigo, you should be able to find it. Surviving Tiny Humans. My website is Vitals with Dr. Buller, and my TikTok and Instagram are also Vitals with Dr. Buller. So if you search for that, you'll be able to find all the information that you need when courses are available, pricing. You can buy the online classes, you can buy the book, you can sign up for in-person classes. It's all there.
Amazing. And just a selfish question as somebody who also writes books, like what was that process like for you writing it down and putting it all into one place?
Interestingly, the writing was the easy part, right? If you know what you're saying, right, getting those ideas onto paper was relatively straightforward. The editing took a little bit of time, just to get it perfect, exactly the way that I wanted it. But it was the publishing that was the hard part for sure. Yeah. So I had sent my book to a few publishing houses. And the feedback that I got was no one can publish a book anymore unless they already have a bestseller or they have a social media following of at least 10,000. So, okay, I don't have those things yet. So I went through a publishing agency called BookBaby, which is sort of, it's self-publishing, but they do, line editing and they do formatting and they will help you to distribute it. So they basically help you to self-publish. So that part was a bit more challenging navigating that because I'd never done it before. And it came with its own frustrations, of course. But it actually it wasn't too bad.
Well, now that you've gone through the whole process, will there be a book 2 and a book 3?
Probably. I mean, not right away, but surviving toddlers, yeah, that might be coming soon. Because once I've been through that stage, I mean, again, there's so much, and I want to talk about discipline versus boundaries, and I want to talk about how to cope with the change from one baby to two. Right? There's so much that goes through our minds and so much that we just don't know. Again, it's not just the first year of a new baby, it's every single step along the way. So eventually, yeah, there will probably be more.
That'll be great. Yeah. And just, for years down the track, I hear a lot that there's not enough about parenting teenagers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear that as well. It's a common theme. So I think people assume that they're, big kids now, they don't really have, apparently they have more needs, right? I haven't been there myself, but their emotions are bigger, right? Their troubles are bigger. So knowing how to support them through that and how to navigate the parent-teen relationship, yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. I am looking forward to it, but
Everything
it's
has
going
its
to be
own
both.
challenges.
It's going to be both. It's going to be good and bad, right?
That's exactly,
Yeah.
exactly it. Yes. Was there anything that you wanted to mention here or talk about that I didn't ask?
I don't think so. I mean, we covered a lot of topics. Let me try and think. You can hear my daughter in the background there. um, no, I think again, I think the biggest thing, and my biggest piece of advice that I always will give to new parents, which is ironic because it's advice, is not to take anyone's advice, right? So yes, you can hear them, you can hear the message that they're giving you, but understanding why they have that opinion, why they're telling you to do that is far more important than the actual advice. So if they say you shouldn't sleep train your baby, understanding why, what information they have to make that decision is important. But the advice itself, that comes from a place of circumstances that might not apply to you, right? So get as much information as you can. And when people give you advice, because they will, you can be inspired by it or you can completely ignore it. But it's the information that will help you decide how you want to parent that's important.
I love that. I think that is so important.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your knowledge and for the work that you're doing with parents, through your books and your work and through the programs that you offer.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. This is a really cool forum to get the word out. So I really appreciate it. And I was very happy to do it.